I'm 83 years old, and most mornings I still wake up expecting to hear Tom's breathing beside me. He's been gone almost 6 months now, but the habit lingers. I roll over, reach for him, and touch only cool sheets. Then I remember. After that, I get up anyway. I make coffee the way he liked it, black, strong, no sugar, and carry the mug out to the porch swing that creaks like an old friend. The house sits on a quiet ridge just outside Asheville, North Carolina. We bought it in 1968, back when the mountains still felt like a secret, and the nearest neighbor was a mile away. The porch faces west, so the sunsets are always worth watching. Tom used to say the sky looked like God had spilled his paint box. I never got tired of hearing him say it. Today, the mail truck comes early, around 11:15. I hear the engine grinding up the gravel road before I see the white truck. I stand at the porch railing, watching the driver lean out to slide the mail into the box. He waves. I wave back, even though my heart is already pounding. I walk down the 3 steps, open the box, and pull out the usual stack: a utility bill, a catalog for garden tools, a postcard from a friend in Florida, and one cream-colored envelope with silver calligraphy. My name is on the front, Mrs. Grace Whitaker, in elegant, looping script. The return address is in Sedona, Arizona. My fingers tremble as I carry everything back inside. I set the bills and catalog on the kitchen table, then sit in Tom's old recliner by the window. The envelope feels heavy, like it carries more than paper. I turn it over twice, tracing the embossed edge with my thumb. I know what it is. I've known for months. I slide my fingernail under the flap and open it slowly. Inside is a single card, thick and creamy, printed in the same silver ink. Mr. and Mrs. James Whitaker request the honor of your presence at the marriage of their daughter Lillian Grace Whitaker to Dr. Benjamin Cole, Saturday, the 23rd of June at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Chapel of the Holy Cross, Sedona, Arizona. A small insert is tucked inside, directions to the chapel, a note about parking, and a final line in smaller print. The ceremony is intimate. We appreciate your understanding. No RSVP card addressed to me, no "and family," no mention of a mother or father of the bride, just that polite, careful phrase, "We appreciate your understanding." I sit there until the coffee goes cold in my mug. The house is quiet except for the tick of the grandfather clock in the hall. I stare at the invitation until the words blur. Lily is getting married, my baby girl, and she didn't invite us. Tom died in December. He never knew this day would come without him. He always said Lily would soften eventually. He believed in second chances. I believed in him, so I believed too. Now he's gone, and I'm sitting here alone with a piece of paper that says, in the politest way possible, that my daughter still hasn't forgiven me. I walk back to the porch and sit on the swing. The chains creak softly as I rock. The mountains are hazy in the late morning light, blue-green and timeless. I close my eyes and try to picture her face. Lily at 4 with her pigtails and gap-toothed smile, Lily at 16, angry and beautiful, telling me she hates me, Lily at 23, walking out the door with suitcases and never looking back. I haven't seen her in person since 1989, 35 years, a lifetime. I open my eyes and look at the invitation again. The date is in 2 weeks. Sedona is a long flight away. I could go anyway. I could rent a car, drive to that chapel, stand outside the stone walls and watch from a distance. I could see her in white, smiling at a man I've never met. I could pretend I was invited, but I won't, because she didn't want me there, because she still doesn't. I fold the card carefully and slip it back into the envelope. I carry it inside and place it in the top drawer of the hall table, next to the shoebox of letters I never sent her. The letters are yellowed now, tied with a faded blue ribbon. I haven't added to the collection in years. I walk back to the kitchen, pour out the cold coffee, and make a fresh pot. I don't know why. Maybe because it's what I always do. Maybe because if I keep moving, the ache stays manageable. The phone rings. It's my neighbor, Margaret, asking if I need anything from town. I tell her no, thank you. She asks how I'm doing. I say I'm fine. She doesn't push. After I hang up, I stand at the sink and look out the window. The hummingbird feeder is empty. I should fill it. Tom used to do that. He said the birds brought good luck. I fill the feeder with sugar water and hang it back on the hook. Then I sit on the porch again, watching the mountains, watching the sky change color, watching the day pass. The invitation is in the drawer, the wedding is in 2 weeks, and I will not be there. But I will remember every single moment of it. Because even if she doesn't want me, I will always want her. And that, I suppose, is the truest thing I know at 83. August 12th, 1989 was a Saturday. I remember because the air smelled like cut grass and the last of the summer roses, and because the sky was the kind of blue that makes you believe everything will be all right. I was in the kitchen making iced tea when I heard the front door open and close with a soft click. Lily was home early from her summer job at the library. I turned around, wiping my hands on a dish towel, and saw her standing in the hallway. She had 2 suitcases, one black, one red, and a cardboard box of books balanced on her hip. Her denim jacket was patched with peace signs and band logos she'd sewn on herself. Her hair was in a messy braid, strands escaping around her face. She looked small, but her eyes were hard. "I'm leaving," she said. The words landed like stones in still water. I felt the ripples spread through my chest. "Lily, honey, what are you talking about?" She set the box down carefully on the floor. "I'm going to Raleigh. Aunt Carol said I can stay with her until I figure things out." I stepped toward her. "Sweetheart, let's sit down. Let's talk." She shook her head. "I don't want to talk. I'm done talking." Tom was still at the hardware store. He wouldn't be home for another hour. I wished he was here. He always knew how to calm her, how to make her laugh even when she was furious. But he wasn't, and I was the one standing between her and the door. She looked at me then, really looked, and her eyes were red-rimmed, like she'd been crying for hours. "You lied to me," she said quietly, "my whole life." My stomach dropped. I knew exactly what she meant. The paternity test, the letter from the state lab. I'd left it on the counter the day before, meaning to shred it before anyone saw it, but she'd come home early. "Lily, I was going to tell you." "When?" she cut in. "When I was 30? When I had kids of my own and wondered why they didn't look like Dad?" "Tom is your dad, in every way that matters. He raised you. He loves you. But he's not my father," she said, "not my real father." I took another step closer. She took a step back. "Don't," she said. "Don't come any closer." I stopped. My hands were shaking so badly I had to clasp them together. I was young. I was scared. I thought I was doing the right thing. "You chose him," she said. "You chose to lie instead of telling me the truth. You let me grow up thinking everything was normal, and then you let me find out from a piece of paper on the kitchen counter." I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. She picked up the box again. "I can't stay here. I can't look at you and not see the lie." "Lily, please." She shook her head. "I'm not asking for permission. I'm telling you." Tom's truck pulled into the driveway then. I heard the engine cut off, the door slam. He walked in whistling, the way he always did when he came home from work. He stopped when he saw us. The whistling died in his throat. "What's going on?" he asked. Lily looked at him. Her face crumpled for a second, then hardened again. "I'm leaving," she said. "I'm sorry, Dad." Tom's eyes flicked to me, then back to her. "Leaving where?" "Raleigh, Aunt Carol's." He stepped forward slowly, hands out like he was approaching a wounded animal. "Honey, let's sit down. Let's figure this out." She shook her head. "I already figured it out. I'm done." Tom reached for her. She stepped back. "I love you," she said, voice breaking, "but I can't stay here. I can't pretend anymore."
She turned to me one last time. "You chose him," she said again, "over me, over the truth. I'll never forgive you for that." Then she walked past Tom, past me, out the front door. The screen door slammed behind her. I heard her car start. I heard the tires crunch over the gravel driveway. I heard the engine fade down the road until there was nothing left but silence. Tom stood frozen in the doorway. I sank into a kitchen chair, hands covering my face. He came to me, knelt in front of me, pulled my hands away gently. "She'll come back," he said. "She's angry, she's hurt, but she'll come back." I shook my head. "She won't." He didn't argue. He just held me while I cried. That night, I sat on the porch swing until the stars came out. Tom sat beside me. Neither of us spoke. The next morning, her room was empty. Her closet was bare. Her posters were gone. The only thing she left was a small ceramic turtle she'd made in 3rd grade, green, lopsided, with her initials scratched into the bottom. I kept it on the windowsill for years. I still have it. I look at it now, sitting on the same porch swing 35 years later, holding the invitation that never asked me to come. I remember her face that day, the hurt, the anger, the betrayal. I remember the way she looked at me like a stranger, and I remember the way I let her walk out that door without fighting harder. I didn't run after her. I didn't beg. I didn't tell her the whole truth, that her biological father had been a brief, reckless mistake, that I was 19 and terrified, and that I'd chosen Tom because he was kind and steady and loved me when no one else did. I didn't tell her that I'd chosen silence because I thought it would protect her. I was wrong, and that silence cost me my daughter. I sit here now, rocking slowly, the invitation in my lap, and wonder if she still remembers that day the way I do, if she still feels the same anger, if she still believes I chose Tom over her. I hope she doesn't, because the truth is, I chose fear over honesty, and I've been paying for it every single day since.
It was a Tuesday in late October 1972. I was 23, married less than a year, and still learning how to be a wife. Tom was 25, working long hours at the hardware store his father owned. We lived in a small rented house on the edge of Asheville, the kind with creaky floors and a kitchen window that looked out on a gravel road. I was pregnant, 6 months along, and terrified. The man I dated before Tom was named Daniel. He was a music major at the university. Long hair, guitar always in his hand, always talking about moving to Nashville. We were together for 3 months in the spring of 1971. He left town the day after graduation. I didn't even know I was pregnant until July, when the nausea wouldn't stop and the doctor confirmed it. I never told Daniel. I didn't know where he'd gone. I didn't want to know. I met Tom that same summer at a church picnic. He was steady, kind, quiet. He asked me out the next week. We were engaged by Christmas, married the following June. When Lily was born in February 1973, Tom held her first and cried like a baby himself. He said she was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. I believed him. For 16 years, no one questioned anything. Lily had Tom's dark hair and his quiet smile. She called him Daddy. She sat on his lap to read bedtime stories. She asked him to teach her how to ride a bike, how to fish, how to change a tire. He did all of it. He was her father in every way that counted. But the truth was a shadow I carried alone. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself secrets like that died if you buried them deep enough. I was wrong. Lily found out on a rainy Thursday in March 1989. She was 16, a sophomore at Asheville High. She came home early from school because the track team practice had been canceled. I was at the grocery store. Tom was at work. She walked into the kitchen, dropped her backpack on the floor, and saw the envelope on the counter. It was from the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, a plain white envelope with my name typed on it. I'd received it 2 days earlier and forgotten to shred it. Inside was the result of a paternity test I'd ordered in secret after Lily started asking questions about why she didn't look like her father's side of the family. I'd done it on a whim, thinking it would finally put my mind at rest. It didn't. The test confirmed what I'd feared. Tom was not her biological father. Probability of paternity, 0%. Lily read the letter. Then she read it again. I know because when I came home from the store, she was sitting at the kitchen table, the paper in her hands, tears streaming down her face. She looked up at me. "You lied to me," she whispered. I dropped the grocery bags. Apples rolled across the floor. "Lily, honey, you knew," she said. "All this time you knew and you never told me." I tried to explain. I tried to tell her it didn't make anything, that Tom loved her, that he was her dad in every way that mattered. She didn't listen. She stood up, walked past me, and went upstairs. I heard her bedroom door slam. I heard her lock it. Tom came home at 6. He found me sitting on the floor in the kitchen, surrounded by spilled groceries, crying into my hands. He knelt beside me. "What happened?" I told him. He went upstairs and sat outside her door for hours. He talked to her through the wood. He told her he loved her. He told her nothing would change. He told her she was still his girl. She didn't answer. The next morning, she came downstairs with a backpack and a duffel bag. She looked at Tom first. "I'm going to Aunt Carol's in Raleigh. She said I can stay there for a while." Tom stood up slowly. "Lily, please don't do this." She looked at him with tears in her eyes. "I need to go, Dad. I can't be here right now." She hugged him, quick, hard, like she was afraid to let go. Then she looked at me. "I don't know who you are anymore." She walked out the front door. I didn't follow her. I stood in the doorway and watched her car disappear down the road. Tom came up behind me and put his arms around me. I cried into his shirt. "She'll come back," he said again. But she didn't. She stayed with Aunt Carol for 6 months, then got her own apartment, then transferred to a college in Raleigh. She called Tom every few weeks. She never called me. When he asked about me, she changed the subject. Eventually, the calls stopped. Tom never stopped hoping. He kept her room exactly as she'd left it. Posters on the walls, books on the shelves, that ceramic turtle on the windowsill. He said she'd need a place to come home to someday. I stopped hoping. I buried the guilt instead. I told myself she was better off without me. I told myself I'd done enough damage. But every year on her birthday, I sat on the porch swing and watched the sunset, imagining what she was doing, who she was with, whether she still hated me. I never knew. I never asked. And now, 35 years later, I'm holding a wedding invitation that proves she still hasn't forgiven me. I sit in Tom's recliner, the invitation in my lap, and wonder if she ever will. I wonder if I deserve it. Every year on February 14th, Lily's birthday, I sit at the small oak desk in the guest room, the one Tom and I painted white when we thought we might turn it into a nursery someday. I pull out the same shoebox I've kept since 1990, tied with a faded blue ribbon. Inside are 35 envelopes, one for each year she's been gone. None of them have stamps. None of them have ever been mailed. I write one every year, usually late at night when the house is quiet and the only light is the desk lamp. I use the same fountain pen I bought in 1985 at a stationery shop downtown, the one with the fine gold nib that leaves ink smudges on my fingers. I write the date at the top of each page, then her name, Lily. The first letter is dated February 14, 1990. Dear Lily, today you turned 17. I spent the day cleaning your room, even though there's nothing left to clean. I found a sock under your bed, pink with little hearts. I washed it and folded it and put it in the drawer. I don't know why. Maybe because I still hope you'll come back for it. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I thought keeping the truth from you would protect you. I was wrong. I was scared. I was young and stupid, and I thought silence was kinder than honesty. I know now it wasn't. Your dad, Tom, misses you every day.
He keeps your bike in the garage. He won't let me sell it. He says you might need it when you come home. I love you. I always will. Mom. I never sent it. I couldn't bear the thought of her throwing it away without reading it, or worse, reading it and hating me more. The second year, 1991, she turned 18. I wrote about how proud I was that she'd graduated high school and gotten into college. I wrote about the new hummingbird feeder Tom hung on the porch. I wrote that I'd seen a girl at the grocery store who looked just like her, and my heart had stopped for a second. I still didn't mail it. By 1995, she was 22. I'd heard through Aunt Carol that she'd graduated from UNC Chapel Hill with a degree in biology. I wrote about how much I wished I could have seen her walk across the stage. I wrote that Tom had started keeping a scrapbook of newspaper clippings, anything he thought she might like. I wrote that I'd started volunteering at the library where she used to work, just to feel closer to her. Still no stamp. In 2000, the year she turned 27, I wrote about the new millennium and how I'd spent New Year's Eve alone on the porch swing, watching fireworks from the valley below. I wrote that Tom had been diagnosed with early-stage prostate cancer that fall, but he was doing well. I wrote that I wished she could meet him again because he was still the same gentle man who taught her to fish. I folded the letter, sealed it, and added it to the box. The letters changed over the years. Some were long and rambling, some were short, just a few lines. In 2005, when she turned 32, I wrote about the first time Tom and I went to Sedona on vacation. I told her how beautiful the red rocks were, how the sky felt endless. I didn't mention that we'd gone there because I wanted to feel closer to wherever she might be. I didn't know she was living in Arizona then. In 2010, I wrote about Tom's retirement. He'd sold the hardware store to a young couple. We talked about traveling more. I wrote that I'd started painting watercolors of the mountains, and that one of them was of the porch swing with a ghost of a girl sitting beside me. In 2015, when she turned 42, I wrote about the day Tom and I celebrated our 50th wedding anniversary. We had a quiet dinner at the same restaurant we went to after our wedding. I wore the same pearl earrings he gave me that first year. I wrote that I wish she could have been there. Last year, 2024, she turned 55. I wrote about how Tom was slowing down, how his hands shook when he held a coffee mug. I wrote that I was afraid of losing him. I wrote that I was afraid of dying without her knowing how much I loved her. I never sent any of them. I told myself it was because she didn't want to hear from me. Aunt Carol had said so much years ago. She's not ready, Grace. She may never be. I believed her. I believed it protected me from more rejection. But the truth is, I was protecting myself from the possibility that she might forgive me. Because if she forgave me, I'd have to forgive myself, and I wasn't ready for that. I sit here now, the wedding invitation open on the desk beside the shoebox. The letters are stacked neatly inside, each one sealed, each one carrying a piece of my heart I never had the courage to give her. I pick up the pen again. I could write one more letter. I could write about the invitation, about how much it hurt, about how proud I am of her anyway. But I don't. Instead, I close the box, tie the ribbon tighter, and slide it back under the bed where it belongs. I walk to the window and look out at the mountains. The sun is setting, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. I whisper to the empty room, "Happy birthday, Lily. I hope you're happy." Then I turn off the lamp and go downstairs. The letters will stay where they are, unsent, unopened, unforgiven. Just like me.
June 23rd dawned clear and hot in North Carolina, the kind of summer day where the air feels thick before noon. I woke at 5, as I do most mornings since Tom's passing. I made coffee the way he liked it, black, strong, and carried the mug to the porch swing. The invitation sat on the side table beside me, the cream envelope already worn soft from being handled too many times. I'd spent the last 2 weeks in a strange limbo. I hadn't told anyone, not Margaret next door, not my sister in Florida, not even the woman who cuts my hair. I'd booked 2 plane tickets to Phoenix months ago, just in case. I'd reserved a rental car. I'd even bought a gift, A silver locket from the jeweler downtown, the one with the tiny heart clasp. Inside, I placed the photo of Lily at 5 years old, missing 2 front teeth, grinning at the camera like the world belonged to her. I wrapped it in silver paper and tied it with a white ribbon. It sat on my dresser, waiting. At 6 o'clock, I called the airline. The reservation agent was polite, young, probably someone's daughter. I canceled both tickets. I told her there had been a family emergency. She didn't ask questions. I thanked her and hung up. I spent the morning cleaning. I dusted the bookshelves, wiped down the kitchen counters, scrubbed the bathroom tiles until my knees ached. Anything to keep my hands busy. Anything to keep my mind from picturing a chapel carved into red rock, a white dress, a man I'd never met standing beside my daughter. At 3:30 Eastern Time, half an hour before the ceremony, I sat on the porch with my phone in my lap. Tom's old flip phone sat beside it, the one he'd refused to upgrade. I'd kept it charged just in case she ever called the old number. The phone stayed silent. At 4 o'clock, I opened Facebook for the first time in months. Lily's profile was still set to public, the way it had been for years. I scrolled through her feed until I found it. A single photo posted at 4:12 p.m. Arizona time. She was beautiful. The dress was simple white silk, sleeveless with a high neck and a soft A-line skirt that caught the light. Her hair was swept up in a loose bun, a few strands falling around her face. She stood under the red rock arches of the Chapel of the Holy Cross, sunlight haloing her. Beside her was a man, tall, dark-haired, wearing a light gray suit and a gentle smile. He held her hand. She looked up at him like he was the only person in the world. The caption read, "Today I married my best friend, grateful for new beginnings." No location tag, no mention of guests, no family photos. Just the two of them, alone against the red rocks and blue sky. I stared at the photo until my eyes burned. I zoomed in on her face, searching for something, anger, sadness, anything that might tell me she was thinking of me. But she was smiling, really smiling, the kind of smile I hadn't seen on her since she was a teenager. I closed the app. The screen went black. Tom would have said, "She looks happy, Grace. That's what matters." I whispered it to the empty porch. "You look happy, Lily." The words tasted like salt. I stood up and walked inside. The house felt too big, too quiet. I went to the hall table and opened the drawer where I'd put the invitation. I took it out and placed it beside the wrapped locket on my dresser. I didn't open the gift. I didn't need to. I knew what was inside. I made dinner, chicken and rice, the same meal I'd made the last time Lily ate at this table. I ate alone at the kitchen island, the way I had most nights since Tom died. When the sun set, I carried the plates to the sink, washed them, dried them, put them away. Then I went back to the porch. The sky was turning the deep indigo of twilight. Fireflies began to flicker in the yard. I sat on the swing and rocked slowly. The chains creaked. The crickets sang. I thought about the day she was born. I thought about the night she left. I thought about all the years in between, the birthdays I celebrated alone, the Christmases with an empty chair, the graduations I never saw. I thought about the man in the gray suit, Dr. Benjamin Cole. I wondered if he knew about me. I wondered if he knew why I wasn't there. I wondered if she'd ever tell her children about the grandmother who wasn't invited to her wedding. The phone stayed silent all night. I didn't cry. I'd cried enough over the years. What was left was something quieter, something like acceptance, something like peace. At midnight, I stood up, carried my empty coffee mug inside, and turned off the porch light. I walked upstairs, past the guest room where the shoebox of letters still waited under the bed. I went into our bedroom, my bedroom now, and climbed under the quilt Tom and I had bought on our 25th anniversary. I turned off the lamp. In the dark, I whispered, "I love you, Lily. I'm proud of you." Then I closed my eyes. The wedding was over. She was married, and I was still here on the porch swing of my heart, waiting for a forgiveness that might never come. But I would wait anyway, because that's what mothers do, even when they're not invited. It was a Tuesday evening in mid-July, 2 weeks after the wedding. The air was thick with the smell of rain that hadn't fallen yet, and the porch light was already on because the days were getting shorter. I was in the kitchen, washing the last of the dinner dishes, a single plate, a single fork, the quiet routine of one person living alone, when I heard the knock. 3 soft taps, almost hesitant. I wiped my hands on the dish towel and walked to the front door. Through the peephole, I saw a woman standing on the porch, late 30s, dark hair pulled into a low ponytail, wearing a simple blue blouse and jeans. She looked nervous, shifting her weight from one foot to the other. I opened the door slowly. She smiled, a small, careful smile, and her eyes met mine. They were Lily's eyes, the same hazel flecked with gold, the same slight upward tilt at the corners. "Mrs. Whitaker?" she asked, voice soft but steady. I couldn't speak. My throat closed. She took a small step forward. "I'm Sarah, Lily's daughter." The world tilted. I grabbed the doorframe to steady myself. Tom's old rocking chair creaked as a breeze moved it behind me. "She sent me," Sarah said quietly. "She couldn't come herself, but she wanted you to have this." She held out a small white envelope, the kind you buy in packs of 20 at the drugstore. My name was written on the front in Lily's familiar, slightly slanted handwriting. I took it with trembling fingers. Sarah looked past me into the house. "May I come in?" I stepped aside. She walked in, carrying a canvas tote bag over one shoulder. I closed the door behind her and led her to the living room. She sat on the edge of the sofa. I sat in Tom's recliner across from her, still holding the envelope. "I don't know where to start," I said finally. Sarah nodded. "I know. Mom told me this would be hard." I looked at her, really looked. She had Lily's high cheekbones, Tom's broad forehead, my nose. She was beautiful in a quiet way, like someone who didn't need to try. "How old are you?" I asked. 35, she said. "I was born in 1989, a few months after Mom left Asheville." I did the math in my head. Lily had been 23 when she left. She'd never told me she was pregnant. Sarah saw the realization cross my face. She didn't know until after she moved to Raleigh. She found out at a clinic. She decided to keep me. Aunt Carol helped her get an apartment, find a job. Mom raised me alone until she met my stepdad when I was 6. I pressed my lips together. Does she talk about me?" Sarah hesitated. "Sometimes, not often. When she does, she usually cries." I looked down at the envelope in my hands. "And you? What did she tell you about me?" "That you loved her very much," Sarah said gently. "That you made mistakes. That she made mistakes too. She said the past is complicated, but that doesn't mean it has to stay broken forever." I opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a single sheet of lined paper. "Mom, I got married. I didn't invite you because I didn't know how to face you. I still don't. I stood in that chapel and looked at Ben and thought about how much I wished you were there, and then I remembered why you weren't. I'm still angry. I'm still hurt. But I'm also pregnant now. A girl, due in November. I'm naming her Grace, after you. I want her to know her grandmother. Not the woman who lied to me, but the woman who loved me enough to let me go when I needed to. The woman who never stopped loving me, even when I stopped letting her. Sarah will bring her to see you next month. I won't be there. Not yet. Maybe someday. I'm not promising anything. I'm just trying. Be good to my daughter. She's brave. She's kind. She's everything I wish I'd been at her age. Love, Lily." I read it twice, then a third time. Tears blurred the ink. Sarah watched me quietly. When I looked up, she reached into her tote bag and pulled out a small framed photo. It was Lily and Ben on their wedding day, standing under the red rocks. She was holding a bouquet of white roses. He was looking at her like she was the only thing that mattered. "She wanted you to have this," Sarah said. She said it's the first time she smiled like that in years. I took the photo. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped it. Sarah stood up. "I should go. I have a hotel in town. I'm flying back tomorrow." "Wait," I said. I stood too.
Please, stay for dinner, or coffee, or just stay a little longer. She hesitated, then nodded. Okay, coffee would be nice. We went to the kitchen. I made a pot of decaf. Tom always kept decaf for guests. Sarah sat at the island and watched me move around the familiar space. You have her hands, she said suddenly. The way you hold the mug. Mom does the same thing. I looked down at my hands. I hadn't noticed. We talked for 2 hours. She told me about her job. She was a pediatric nurse in Phoenix. She told me about Ben. He was an orthopedic surgeon, kind, patient, good with kids. She told me that Lily had been a single mother for years, working nights at the hospital while Sarah was in school. She told me that Lily cried the night before the wedding, alone in her hotel room, wishing things were different. When she left, she hugged me at the door. She smelled like lavender and something faintly like Lily's old shampoo. Mom said to tell you she's not ready, but she's not closing the door. I watched her drive away, taillights disappearing down the gravel road. Then I went back inside, sat on the porch swing, and held the photo and the letter against my chest. For the first time in 35 years, I felt something like hope. Small, fragile, but real.
August came in hot and heavy, the kind of North Carolina summer where the air feels like a wet blanket and the cicadas never stop singing. Sarah had texted me the week before, arriving Friday, August 16th. Grace is 6 weeks old. I'll stay 3 days. Mom says hi. I spent the days leading up to her arrival cleaning everything twice. I dusted the guest room, washed the sheets with the lavender detergent Lily used to like, set out fresh towels, and even bought a small crib from the secondhand store downtown. I filled the fridge with baby food, diapers, formula, and a few toys I wasn't sure she'd need yet. I wanted everything to be perfect. I wanted to prove I could be good to her. Friday morning, I waited on the porch swing from 10 o'clock on. The gravel road was quiet except for the occasional car. At 11:37, a gray rental SUV pulled up slowly. The driver's door opened and Sarah stepped out. She was wearing a white t-shirt and jeans, hair in a loose braid. She waved. Then she opened the back door and unbuckled the car seat. My breath caught. She lifted out a tiny bundle wrapped in a soft pink blanket. Grace, my granddaughter. Sarah walked up the steps carrying the car seat like it weighed nothing. She smiled, a real smile this time, not the careful one from her first visit. "Hi, Nana," she said. I stood up too fast and almost tripped over the swing. I reached out, then hesitated. Sarah nodded, giving me permission. I took Grace from her arms. She was warm and impossibly light. Her eyes were closed, tiny lashes against cheeks that were still red from the car ride. She had Lily's mouth, the same full curve, and my nose, small and slightly turned up. Her little hand curled around my finger, and I felt my knees go weak. I sat back down on the swing, cradling her close. Sarah sat beside me. "She's been sleeping most of the drive," Sarah said softly. "She's a good traveler." I couldn't speak. I just looked at her, memorizing every detail, the soft fuzz of dark hair, the tiny fingernails, the way her chest rose and fell in perfect rhythm. Sarah watched me. "Mom said Grace looks like you when you were a baby. She showed me an old photo." I swallowed hard. "Lily kept photos of me?" Sarah nodded. "A few. She keeps them in a box. She doesn't look at them often, but they're there." I rocked slowly, the swing creaking. Grace stirred, made a small sound, and opened her eyes. They were blue-gray, like the sky after rain. "She sees you," Sarah said. I smiled through tears. "Hi, sweet girl." We stayed on the porch for a while. Sarah told me stories, how Grace had started smiling at 4 weeks, how she liked to be sung to, how Lily had cried the first time she held her because she finally understood what it meant to love someone more than yourself. I listened and held Grace and felt something shift inside me, something that had been frozen for decades. That afternoon, Sarah took Grace upstairs to nurse. I made lunch, chicken salad sandwiches, fresh peaches, iced tea. When they came back down, Grace was asleep in a sling against Sarah's chest. We ate on the porch, the three of us, like it was the most normal thing in the world. Sarah talked about her life in Phoenix. She'd been married for 5 years, no children yet. She loved her job as a pediatric nurse. She said Lily and Ben were happy, quietly happy. They'd bought a house in Sedona with a view of the Red Rocks. Lily worked part-time at a clinic now, focusing on women's health. She's good at it, Sarah said. She's gentle with the patients. They trust her. I nodded. She always had a kind heart. Sarah looked at me. She got that from you. I didn't know what to say to that. That evening, after Grace was bathed and fed and settled in the crib, Sarah and I sat in the living room with glasses of wine. The house was quiet, except for the soft breathing of the baby monitor. Sarah wanted me to tell you something. She said she's not ready to see you yet. She's still working through things, but she's glad I came. She said she hopes you'll understand. I do, I said quietly. Sarah reached over and squeezed my hand. She also said thank you for letting her go when she needed to. She knows it hurt you. I looked down at our joined hands. I never wanted her to leave, but I didn't know how to keep her without breaking her more. Sarah nodded. She knows that now. It took a long time, but she knows. We sat in silence for a while. The clock ticked, the crickets sang outside. Before Sarah went to bed, she hugged me, long and tight. I'll bring Grace back, she said, as often as I can. I hugged her back. Thank you. She went upstairs. I stayed on the couch, listening to the baby monitor. Grace made small sleeping sounds. I closed my eyes and let the tears come, quiet, grateful tears. 3 days later, Sarah packed up the car. Grace was in her car seat, wide awake, looking around with curious eyes. Sarah hugged me again at the door. Mom said to tell you she's thinking about coming next time. No promises, but she's thinking about it. I nodded. I'll be here. Sarah kissed my cheek. I know you will. They drove away. I stood on the porch until the dust settled on the road. Then I went inside, sat at the kitchen table, and opened the drawer where I kept the unsent letters. I pulled out the newest one, the one I'd written after the wedding, and added it to the box. I tied the ribbon tighter. I didn't need to send them anymore, because Lily had sent something better. She'd sent her daughter, and her daughter had brought hope. October arrived with crisp mornings and leaves turning gold along the ridge. Grace was 3 months old now, and Sarah had sent me photos every week. Grace in a tiny knit hat, Grace smiling at a mobile, Grace asleep on Lily's chest. Each one arrived with a short note. She rolled over today, or she loves the sound of wind chimes. I printed them all and taped them to the refrigerator door. The house, once so empty, now held echoes of a baby I'd only held for 3 days. I was making soup one Saturday afternoon, chicken and dumplings, the way my mother taught me, when the mail truck came up the gravel road. I heard the engine, then the familiar clunk of the mailbox lid. I wiped my hands on the apron and walked out to check. Among the usual bills and catalogs was a plain white envelope. No return address, just my name in Lily's handwriting. My heart started pounding before I even touched it. I carried it inside, sat at the kitchen table, and opened it carefully. Inside was one sheet of paper folded once. Mom. Grace smiled today, a real smile, not just gas. She looked right at me and grinned like I was the best thing in the world. I sat there holding her and cried. I finally understood what you felt every time you looked at me. I finally understood why you lied. You were trying to protect me from pain. You were trying to give me a family that felt safe. I'm not saying it was right. I'm not saying I forgive you completely, but I understand it now. Ben and I are moving to Asheville next year. He got a job at the hospital there, chief of orthopedics. We're buying a house on the north side, near the river, closer to you. I don't know what that means yet. I don't know if I'm ready to knock on your door, but Grace will know you. She'll know her grandmother. She'll grow up hearing stories about the woman who loved her mother so much she let her go when she needed to. I'm still angry sometimes. I still hurt. But I'm also grateful. Because without you, I wouldn't have her. Without you, I wouldn't have learned what real love looks like, even when it's messy and imperfect. One day at a time. Lily. I read it twice, then a third time. Tears fell onto the paper, smudging the ink in one spot. I stood up, walked to the sink, and splashed cold water on my face. My hands shook. I looked out the window at the mountains, gold and red against the October sky. Lily was moving back, closer, not to me exactly, but closer. I went upstairs to the guest room and opened the closet. I'd kept a few things of Lily's, her old denim jacket with the patches, a pair of baby shoes, the ceramic turtle she'd made in 3rd grade. I took the turtle down from the windsill and held it in my hand. It was still lopsided, still green, still hers. I carried it downstairs and set it at the kitchen table beside the letter. Then I picked up the phone and called Sarah. She answered on the 2nd ring. "Hi, Nana." "Hi, sweetheart," I said. My voice cracked. "I just got a letter from your mom." Sarah was quiet for a moment. She told me she was writing it. She sat at the kitchen table for hours. Ben kept Grace so she could finish. I swallowed. "She's moving here." "Yeah," Sarah said softly. "Next spring. They close on the house in March." I laughed through tears. "I don't know what to do." "You don't have to do anything," she said. "Just be here. That's all she needs right now." We talked for a while. She told me Grace was teething already, that she'd started grabbing everything within reach. She told me Lily had framed the wedding photo, the one she'd sent me, and hung it in the nursery. She told me Ben was excited about the move, about being closer to family. When we hung up, I sat at the table and stared at the letter again. That night, I didn't write one of my unsent letters. Instead, I opened a fresh sheet of paper and wrote something different. "Dear Lily, I got your letter today. I cried, I laughed, I felt everything at once. I'm glad you understand even a little. I'm glad Grace made you see what love really costs. I'll be here whenever you're ready, whenever you want to knock on this door. I won't push, I won't ask for more than you can give, but I'll be waiting. With love, Mom." I folded it, slipped it into an envelope, and addressed it to Lily's new Asheville address, the one Sarah had texted me earlier that week. I put a stamp on it. I walked to the mailbox at the end of the driveway and dropped it in. It was the first letter I'd ever sent her. I stood there in the dark, hands in my pockets, watching the stars come out one by one. The next morning, I went to the hardware store and bought paint, soft yellow, the color Lily always loved for her room when she was little. I spent the day painting the guest room. I moved the crib to the window where the morning light would fall across it. I hung a small framed print of the Blue Ridge Mountains on the wall. I didn't know when they'd come. I didn't know if Lily would ever step inside this house again, but I wanted it to be ready, just in case. And for the first time in 35 years, I felt like maybe, just maybe, the door wasn't locked anymore. Spring came early that year. By the first week of April, the dogwoods were blooming along the ridge, white petals drifting like snow, and the mountains were the soft green of new leaves. Lily and Ben closed on their house in Asheville on March 28th. Sarah texted me the address, a 2-story craftsman on a quiet street near the French Broad River, about 20 minutes from my porch. I drove by once, just to see it. Red brick, wide front porch, a swing already hanging. I didn't stop. I didn't want to intrude. Then on April 15th, a Saturday, my phone rang. Lily's name appeared on the screen. I answered on the 2nd ring. My voice came out small. "Hello?" "Hi, Mom." Her voice was the same, low, steady, but softer than I remembered. There was a long pause. "I'm outside." I dropped the phone and ran to the door. She was standing on the porch steps, holding Grace on her hip. Ben stood behind her, hands in his pockets, wearing a navy sweater and a cautious smile. Grace was 8 months old, chubby cheeks, dark curls, wearing a yellow dress with little ducks on it. She looked at me with wide, curious eyes. Lily's hair was shorter now, shoulder length, streaked with a few strands of silver. She wore jeans and a cream sweater. She looked tired, but also calm. I stepped outside. The porch boards creaked under my feet. "Hi," I said again. It sounded stupid. "Hi," Lily repeated. She shifted Grace's weight. Grace reached out a small hand toward me. Lily hesitated, then stepped forward. "Would you like to hold her?" I nodded. My hands shook as I took Grace. She was heavier now, solid and warm. She grabbed a fistful of my blouse and stared at me like she was trying to figure out who I was. I kissed her forehead. She smelled like baby shampoo and sunshine. Ben cleared his throat. "I'm Ben," he said, extending his hand. I shook it. "Grace has told me so much about you." He smiled, warm, genuine. "She talks about you too." We stood there for a moment, the four of us, on the porch, where Lily had last stood 35 years earlier. The wind moved through the trees. A hummingbird darted to the feeder. Lily looked at the swing. "Can we sit?" We sat. Ben took Grace and settled her on his lap. She played with the buttons on his sweater. Lily sat beside me, leaving a careful space between us. "I didn't plan to come today," she said quietly. But Grace woke up from her nap and pointed at the door. She does that now, points at things she wants. I looked at her and thought, maybe it's time. I didn't speak. I didn't trust my voice. I still get angry. Sometimes I wake up and remember the day I left, and I feel it all over again. But then I look at Grace and I think about how I'd do anything to protect her, even if it meant lying to her someday. I don't know if I'd be brave enough to do what you did. I swallowed. I wasn't brave. I was scared. She nodded. "I know. I've had a lot of time to think about it." We sat in silence. Grace babbled softly, reaching for the porch railing. Ben lifted her so she could touch it. Lily looked at me. "I'm not ready to forgive everything. Not yet. But I'm ready to try." I nodded. Tears ran down my face. I didn't wipe them away. Ben stood up. "I'll take Grace inside. Give you two some time." He carried her into the house. I heard the screen door close softly. Lily turned to me. "I kept all your letters, the ones Aunt Carol forwarded. I read them, every one. I just couldn't answer." "I didn't expect you to," I said. She looked out at the mountains. "I'm sorry I didn't invite you to the wedding. I wanted to. I stood there in that chapel and thought about you. I just couldn't." "I understand. I do." She reached over and took my hand. Her fingers were cool. Mine were shaking. She brought something. She pulled a small envelope from her purse. Inside was a photo, Lily and me taken when she was 4. We're sitting on this same porch swing, her head on my shoulder, both of us laughing at something off camera. I'd forgotten the picture existed. "I found it in a box. I had it framed for you." I took it. My hands trembled so badly I almost dropped it. "Thank you," I whispered. We sat for another hour. We talked about small things, her new job at the hospital, Ben's work, Grace's first tooth. We didn't talk about the past. Not yet. When Ben came back out with Grace, she was sleepy. Lily took her and stood up. "We should go. She needs a nap." I stood too. "You're welcome here anytime, any day, any hour." Lily nodded. "I know." She hugged me. Quick, tentative, but real. I held on a second longer than she did. Ben shook my hand again. "We'll be back." They walked to the car. Lily buckled Grace into the car seat, then looked back at me from the driveway. "I'll call." I nodded. "I'll be here." They drove away. Dust settled on the road. I stood on the porch until the car disappeared around the bend. Then I went inside and hung the photo on the wall, beside the one of Tom and me on our wedding day. I sat on the couch and cried, not from sadness, but from something softer, something like relief. Lily had come home. Not all the way, not yet, but she had come, and that was enough for today. It's been 5 years since that April afternoon when Lily stood on my porch steps with Grace in her arms. 5 years of slow, careful steps forward, the kind of progress that doesn't make headlines but changes everything. Grace is 6 now. She calls me Nana without hesitation. She spends every summer here, 2 whole weeks in July, sometimes more if Lily can take extra time off. She sleeps in the yellow room I painted for her, the one with the crib that's now a twin bed covered in a quilt I made from scraps of old dresses. She loves the porch swing. She climbs up beside me every evening and asks for stories. I tell her the good ones, how her mommy used to chase fireflies in the yard, how she once ate an entire jar of strawberry jam with a spoon, how she sang off-key but with all her heart. I leave out the hard parts. She doesn't need those yet. Lily has visited 3 times since that first day. The second visit was awkward. Lots of silences, lots of looking at the floor. She stayed one night, left early the next morning. The third time was different. She stayed a week. We sat on the porch swing every evening after Grace went to bed. We talked about everything. About the day she left, about the years she was gone, about the guilt I carried, the anger she carried. We cried, we laughed a little. We didn't fix everything, but we started. Ben is steady and kind. He calls me Mom now, without making a big deal of it. He brings Grace up every other weekend when Lily is on call. He fixes the porch steps when they creak. He grills burgers on the little charcoal grill Tom kept in the garage. He fits here, quietly. Sarah comes too, sometimes alone, sometimes with her husband. She's pregnant now, due in December. She says Grace will be a big sister soon. The thought makes me smile so wide it hurts. Tom died 2 winters ago, a quiet passing in his sleep. Lily came to the funeral. She sat beside me in the front pew, held my hand the entire time. She didn't say much. She didn't need to. Her being there was the loudest thing in the room. Now I sit on the porch swing alone most evenings. The chains still creak the same way they did when Lily was small. The hummingbird feeder still hangs where Tom hung it. The mountains still turn gold in the late afternoon light. Grace's laughter drifts from the backyard. She's playing tag with Sarah's husband, running barefoot across the grass. Lily watches from the porch steps, arms crossed, smiling the way she used to when she was young and the world hadn't hurt her yet. I never imagined my daughter's wedding would break my heart. I never imagined it would also be the beginning of something new. But life has a way of surprising you, even at 88. Sometimes forgiveness doesn't come all at once. Sometimes it comes in pieces, small, quiet, unexpected pieces. A letter, a photo, a baby in your arms, a hug that lasts a second longer than the last one. Sometimes it comes with a little girl who looks just like you, swinging on your porch, asking for one more story. I look at Lily now. She catches my eye and smiles, a real smile, the kind that reaches her eyes. She walks over and sits beside me on the swing. "Penny for your thoughts?" she asks. I take her hand. Her fingers are warm. "I was thinking about how lucky I am," I say. She squeezes my hand. We both are. Grace runs up the steps, out of breath, cheeks pink. She climbs between us, settles on my lap, and leans her head against my chest. "Tell me about when Mommy was little again," she says. I look at Lily. She nods. I start the story. The one about the strawberry jam, the one about the fireflies, the one that ends with, "and she lived happily ever after." Grace sighs happily. I love that story. Lily rests her head on my shoulder. Me too. The sun drops lower, the sky turns pink and gold, the swing creaks softly. I close my eyes and breathe in the scent of honeysuckle, cut grass, and the little girl who calls me Nana. I never thought I'd get this back, but I did. Not perfectly, not completely, but enough. And enough, I've learned, is sometimes the sweetest word there is.